The challenge of this course is to think of the human condition as a category of being. That's actually surprisingly difficult for us to do because we're accustomed to think of beings, of particular entities. But what is it that all things, all beings are? What is the being of beings? And that is very difficult for us to grasp. Levinas proposes a thought experiment. He says, think about the annihilation of all things. And that might be helpful, but I want to propose a simpler thought experiment that I think we can demonstrate here. What is it that is on this table? And if you would think with me for a moment, I know this is a very simple thought experiment, but it may prove to be helpful to us. Jot down an answer to this question in a complete sentence. Don't just say a book. Write a sentence. What is on this table? Pause the video and write it down for yourself and then restart it after you jot it down. What is on this table? We could say there's a book on this table. To complete the thought experiment, we take the book away and we say, what's on the table now? And we could formulate this many different ways, but one way we could say this is there's nothing on the table. And in the grammar we use to answer this question, we hear a surprising insight. There is. There is nothing. There is a book, right? The there is, Levinas says, points out to us the ineluctability of being when there are no beings. When nothing is there, there is still something which is. And we have for ourselves a grasp of something, this differentiation between being and beings. This being, which is not a being, Levinas will refer to in different ways, grasping after this term, after the meaning of this term, but he'll sometimes refer to it as a field of forces or as a murmur of silence, right? Let me propose another way that we can hear this silence or see this being which is not a being. Imagine the experience maybe we've all had of exploring a home before we move into it. There, the emptiness is full of potentialities. Your room could be here, my study could be there. We might inhabit this space in a certain way. The cupboards are bare, meaning this is where we could store our food. Now imagine a very different kind of nothing when we come back to that space after a long period. There, the nostalgia recalls to us the beings which are not there. The empty cupboards aren't empty in the sense of being full of potential. Now they recall to us the provision that our mother always worked hard to supply for us there, right? This there is referred to in French as il y a, or in German as es gibt, or in Filipino, if I'm not mistaken, as meron, right? This meron that is, even when nothing is the being of beings. We might come to this one last example of the being of beings when we think about death. We're accustomed to think of death as the end of existence. But if you'll think with me for a moment, the death actually refers us to the ineluctability of nothing, the impossibility that nothing is. If I were to die right now, I would still be Darren. I would just be dead. Suicide is frustrated by the fact that existence goes on. I don't know anything about the psychological condition of a person after they're dead. I mean that the existence still is. That experience of encountering our being apart from any of the attributes of our being, any of the things which we are, is what Levinas promises as the fruit of metaphysical thinking, the insight into what is separated from its attributes or its effect on us.